What's going on, everyone? So the Minnesota Timberwolves have been excellent this year, right? They are the number one seed in the Western Conference. They are a top defensive team. Their offense can get a little stagnant at times, but they still have been very good on both sides of the basketball. They have been one of the better home teams in the league this year. They are a team that is primed and ready to make a real run. And many believe that they are going to be a true contender, that it's not just regular season success that is going to lead to possibly the Western Conference Finals, maybe even the NBA Finals, and, if everything goes right, an NBA championship. And you look at this team, they are stacked, right? You got Mike Conley, who's an excellent, just kind of glue piece, veteran type player on the Timberwolves. Rudy Gobert as like your defensive anchor. You have Karl Anthony Towns, the stretchable big man, right? Although at times I still feel like Karl Anthony Towns and Rudy Gobert can kind of conflict with each other. You got Anthony Edwards, who's just superstar. This guy is ridiculous. I really believe Anthony Edwards, 3 years, will be a top 5 player in the league. Jaden McDaniels is arguably the best on-ball defender. Then you got guys like Naz Reid, Kyle Anderson. You have a lot of pieces on this roster that are just quality players that are playing excellent brand of basketball and could really be hoisting the Larry O'Brien trophy at the end of the year. And then you look at a team like the Phoenix Suns, who on paper look terrifying, but they're a prime example of paper doesn't really always translate. Now, obviously, Phoenix, Bradley Beal's been out a lot, right? Devin Booker missed some time. Maybe they figure it out, but their problems are bigger than just like Bradley Beal coming back and they win games. Their depth is questionable, can't stop anybody. They've been terrible in the fourth quarter, right? They lack true playmaking. There's a lot of problems that the Phoenix Suns have. And there's a lot of talk about Kevin Durant potentially wanting out of the Phoenix Suns, that he is unhappy. He's kind of tried to put that stuff to bed, but we have seen him do that before. He did it in OKC, did it with the Warriors, and he did it with the Brooklyn Nets, where, things are fine. And next thing you know, boom, he's out. Now, whether he's demanding a trade or just leaving in free agency, whatever, right? Tries to kind of play it off. So if the Phoenix Suns continue to have their struggles between now and the trade deadline, Kevin Durant is only getting older. He could look at it as like, hey, I need to go somewhere. This isn't working, right? Me, Bradley Beal, Devin Booker. It hasn't been a good fit, right? You need to get me out of here. Trade me. And I really think Minnesota makes a world of sense for Kevin Durant. Like, Minnesota might be the best place for Kevin Durant if he wants to win a championship. Now, Minnesota, they don't have a ton of draft picks, which is the problem, but they definitely have pieces that could make sense for the Phoenix Suns, especially if you're in a trade, or maybe you could even work out a 3-team deal, whatever. But look, Kevin Durant, if he becomes available, again, you're going to have a bidding war. Almost every team in the league is going to want Kevin Durant. And Kevin Durant himself probably won't want Minnesota, right? Because, it's Minnesota, right? He's going to want one of the, maybe like a Miami or something like that. I don't necessarily see him going to Minnesota. But also you can make the argument, like, how many teams will actually push for Kevin Durant this time, where it's like, look, he was unhappy with the Warriors and they were a dynasty and he left, goes to the Nets. He unhappy with the Nets, that implodes, right? Kyrie wants out. James Harden ends up leaving. So he goes to the Suns, which was his preferred destination. He pushed for, he kept things under the table, right? And next thing you know, things are going bad, and not even a year later, he's requesting a trade out again. That might be a bad look for teams. And look, if I'm being honest, I don't believe Kevin Durant is going to ask out for a trade. I don't, at least this year. Maybe if they, let's say they make the play-in and they don't even make the playoffs, maybe Kevin Durant goes, you know what, get me out of here. But if Minnesota doesn't win the chip this year, then, it could make an argument for Kevin Durant. I just look at it and just go, Kevin Durant is tried to now twice replicate the offensive weaponry of the Golden State Warriors. But the problem is he's had too many clashing type players, right? James Harden and Kyrie Irving, although James Harden, when he accepted the playmaking role, they really did have some success. And it's kind of always one of those what ifs with the Brooklyn Nets, but more so with the Phoenix Suns, right? One of their biggest problems is, again, they don't have a proper playmaker to put everything together, right? And Devin Booker, he's operating as the playmaker, which is kind of neutralizing him in a lot of ways, right? They don't have the depth. They don't have the overall talent outside of being top heavy with Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, and Devin Booker. And I don't see it being corrected because they basically have no assets, no future, no nothing. And so, like, what do you do, right? But if Kevin Durant went to a team like Minnesota, you have that same offensive weaponry, but you have better balance. Now you have a guy in Anthony Edwards who can go and light it up, but he does so many other things that Kevin Durant doesn't. Like Bradley Beal and Devin Booker are very similar players, right? And even in a lot of ways, they're very similar to the things that Kevin Durant does. Neither of them, all three of the guys aren't like real rim pressure type players that can just get to the basket, right? They have the ability to, but that's not really their game. They're more pull up, right? Where you get a guy like Anthony Edwards, he can get to the basket at will. He's so athletic. He's so explosive. He can shoot and just operate at all three levels, right? You get that sort of push and pull that you don't get with anyone else. Anthony Edwards has a lot of just complementary just skill sets that Kevin Durant doesn't currently have alongside him. Not just that, but Anthony Edwards defensively is excellent. One of the best on-ball guards, right? If you could find a way to keep Jaden McDaniels, that would be great too. But even if you can't, right? If you just had Mike Conley, Rudy Gobert, Kevin Durant, and Anthony Edwards, you're way, way good enough to win an NBA championship. And you'll probably still have guys like Kyle Anderson and stuff like that, right? So, you could literally go, like, let's say you put together a package of Karl Anthony Towns, Jaden McDaniels, and whatever else, right? Pick your other pieces. Because, again, they don't really have draft picks. So, it would be players. Jaden McDaniels would make a ton of sense for the Phoenix Suns. Karl Anthony Towns, now you have another big man, you got another 4, you got another guy that will give you 20 plus a night. So now you still need a playmaker, but at least this kind of makes a little more sense, right? You got another big man, you can play him alongside Nurk, kind of go with the two bigs. I know neither of them are great defensively, but again, you take what you can get, or you could always flip Karl Anthony Towns or something, right? But more so like Jaden McDaniels makes a lot of sense. So now you could go like Beal, Booker, McDaniels, Town, and Nurk. Like, to me, that's just better balance than what you currently have. Still have all the offensive firepower, all the offensive weaponry. And then a team, like I said, Minnesota, if you have a starting five, Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant, Kyle Anderson, and Rudy Gobert, or you could even go Naz Reid because of his ability to stretch the floor. You're arguably the best starting five in the league. The only team that I think you can make an argument for would be Boston. But I think you'd have plenty of depth. I think you'd have plenty of talent, versatility. Defensively, you'd be excellent, right? Because Kevin Durant can still get it done on the defensive side. Mike Conley, Anthony Edwards as, your point of attack guys. You got Rudy Gobert as your defensive anchor, right? And I also just think Kevin Durant just fits better than Karl Anthony Towns as far as like what they need. And you get that closer, you get that guy down the stretch outside of Anthony Edwards, get a guy that's hit big shots, has had big moments, gives you a guy that has the experience in the playoffs, has been to an NBA Finals multiple times, has won an NBA championship, knows what it's like down the stretch of games. He can kind of be that concept. Mike Conley's had some success in the playoffs as well, especially with like the grit and grind Grizzlies. Say that 10 times fast. But, outside of that, it would be nice to bring in a guy like a Kevin Durant who you can rely on and trust, especially down the stretch of games, and help better close out games. You still be excellent defensively, right? And now I just think you have this nice balance, this nice versatility. You got the rebounding and shot blocking and just interior threat in Rudy Gobert. You got the all-around attack from Anthony Edwards. You got that veteran, savvy, put it all together glue guy and Mike Conley that also is an excellent three-point shooter, play off the ball a little bit when Kevin Durant does have the ball in his hands, right? Mike Conley always remains a threat on the court. And then, you'd still have guys like a Naz Reid or a Kyle Anderson, even if you had to give up Naz Reid, right? Like, let's say the package is Karl Anthony Towns, Naz Reid, and Jaden McDaniels, right? I think you're still good. Still have Kyle Anderson, right? So you still got that 5. Maybe you're a little thin, but you'd still have like, Alexander, Troy Brown. You'd have McLaughlin. I think you'd have enough. Maybe you go and try to get somebody in the buyout market or whatever to just add. Don't they have like Shake Milton too, right? So talking like you'd have plenty of guys. And if everyone's healthy, I mean, you're probably the best team in the league, right? Kevin Durant is so plug and play. You're not going to have that like trial and error period, right? He's just going to come in and play his game, which is great. I mean, what team would be better than the Minnesota Timberwolves? Right? As long as you keep Anthony Edwards, as long as you keep Rudy Gobert, which I don't see why you wouldn't be able to, right? As long as you got like those 3 guys with Mike Conley, those 4 guys basically, you're probably winning a championship, or you're going to be very close. You're at least the favorite coming out of the West, right? The only other team that I think could give you trouble would be the Boston Celtics, because I just think that their 5 would be very comparable. But outside of that, I really like the idea of Kevin Durant on Minnesota if he wanted to go anywhere. Again, I don't think Kevin Durant's going to ask for a trade. I don't think Kevin Durant would even want to go to Minnesota, even if he wanted to, or even if he became available. I don't doubt that Minnesota might be interested in that. I just don't think KD is going to want to go to that place. But outside of that, it's like, who else? Boston, Milwaukee, they're not going to do it. The Sixers maybe make sense, but do the Sixers have enough that makes sense for the Phoenix Suns? Probably not. Miami, kind of the same thing, right? He's not going to go to any of like the middle of the pack teams, right? You look at like the Western Conference, like do the Thunder make that trade? I don't think so, right? Kevin Durant, would he even want to go to the Thunder? And if you're willing to go to the Thunder, you might as well go back to Minnesota, or not back to Minnesota, but go to Minnesota rather than going back to the Thunder, because I just think you'd have a better chance of winning a championship, right? I just think Timberwolves are bigger and just make more sense. But outside of that, like Sacramento, he's not going to go to Sacramento. I mean, he's already had his talks about Sacramento. Like the Mavs, I don't think have enough to go get him, right? So it's like, where's he going to go? Right? The Lakers, the Lakers could put together a decent package, but I don't think it's going to be enough to get a Kevin Durant, right? So it's just like, who makes sense? Like the Warriors and like the Timberwolves, in my opinion. But anyway, again, as always, this is a discussion, so I pass a question on you. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments below. Agree with me, disagree with me, somewhere in between. What are your thoughts? How do you feel? Again, just a fun conversation video. Nothing to take too serious. Let me know down in the comments. That being said, if you haven't liked this video, hit that like button. Helps me out a lot. Lets me know you enjoy these types of videos, and I truly appreciate it. If you're not subscribed to the channel, hit that subscribe button. Turn on the bell notifications. Appreciate you all. See you in the next one. Thank you.